What's going on, guys? I'm back with another gallery update, another Sorare update. Now, my name in Sorare is Can't Whenever. I thought it was kind of a cheeky name, just kind of being funny. Actually, if you look at my team names, if I go into my gallery or into my Sorare account and look at my team names, I kind of named my teams just they never win, they definitely never win, so on and so forth. So it's kind of just a theme that I have running through my gallery. But the past couple of weeks have been anything from other than can't not ever winning, because I actually got my second consecutive podium place in 2025 in back-to-back weekends. Last weekend, I finished second in limited contender. Again, I am a predominantly a contender player. I love contender cards. I love the leagues and the teams, so I mostly play contender. And this week, I have also managed to finish second place again in back-to-back weekends on server in limited contender. So this is the team that I ran out, um, and I ran out my Necaxa stack again. I really like Necaxa because the goalie manages to get a lot of AA pretty frequently. The defense is not the best. They've actually been better so far this season than in previous seasons. A few seasons ago, they couldn't stop anybody. Now he's actually got a much better chance of getting some clean sheets. He's already gotten some clean sheets this season, but managed to get 62 points just with AA in this game. I ran out the rest of the Coxa stack. Pallavicino, Paradella, Cambindo. Cambindo was much higher. I think he finished the game around 80 points, but then they gave him a couple big chances missed, and this was really huge because if they didn't tack on those extra big chance missed well after the game, I think they tacked one on like a full day or two after the game, I would have finished first. I only lost out on first place by I think 4 points. I finished with 442 points. I think the guy who finished first had like 445, 446, something like that. So I literally lost out because of the extra BCM that was added. But regardless, the Necaxa guys did it again, right? They smashed 100 from Paradella. It kind of seems like every weekend or every other weekend, one of these two guys is getting like 100 points. Last weekend, it was Pallavicino who scored 100 points. I captained him last week, so I got nice 158 points out of him. And now it's actually this weekend where Paradella had his turn getting 100. Now I screwed up on the captain. I usually feel it's safer to captain Pallavicino because his AA, his AA game is just so much better. I mean, he still got 60 points. So again, if I kept Paradella, I also would have gotten first place because I missed out on over 20 points by choosing the wrong captain. But that's hindsight. You can't know that before you make your selection. So regardless, they still smashed. Got green scores out of all my Coxa guys, and then Gonzalo Montiel, the new fullback for River Plate, right from Sevilla. He managed to get a second half assist. It was a really good assist too. Right, nice clean cross into the box. Calidio got his head on to the end of that, went right in the net. Really clean cross. He scored really, really well. Got on about 91 points. My XP was a little low in that card because it's a classic card. I bought him kind of right before the season, so I didn't have a lot of time to build up that XP. But still ended up with about 95 points for Montiel. As I've told you guys in my other videos, I think I've probably said this like 2 other times now. The River Plate defense is looking really, really solid. Like I think they've only given up 1 goal, and that was in their first game, and that was actually off of an error made by Armani. He kind of let the ball slip, between them, kind of dropped the ball and let it slip between them. Otherwise, they would have had clean sheets in every single game so far this season. Like they've truly had a dominant defense. So you're getting a lot of clean sheet points, clean sheet bonuses. You're getting a lot of good AA because, again, if you're not letting in goals, because you're winning duels, because you're winning tackles and interceptions. So I have really been leaning on Martinez Cuarta and Montiel as some of my mainstays in the defense and my contender lineups. And so these guys together managed to get me second place in contender again, limited contender. And everyone says, contender is super tough, right? There's a lot of teams, a lot of random leagues that kind of keep hard to keep track of. There's also, just limited in general, right? Limited itself is really, really tough to win because there's just so many more players. There's just so many more cards out there to compete against. But I've managed to get back-to-back podiums. Been able to get second place twice in a row, 2 weekends in a row. So I'm just going to try to keep on rolling, right? J League comes back next weekend. So I'll be able to put out some J League lineups. And yeah, I'll just hope to keep the ball rolling with my really good J League lineups. My J League lineups are actually, I think, even better than my non-J League because I have a lot of XP. As I said in one of my earlier videos, I have a Vissel Kobe collection. I've got a Kawasaki Frontale collection. I just have a lot of cards with really high XP, like 9, 10%. My Kashima Antlers defense, again, 9, 10, 11%. So I'm looking for having even greater success or more consistent success now that I can use my Japanese league cards again. Because again, the XP on those guys is just so high, and those stacks are just so good. Speaking of Vissel Kobe, I actually tried to line them up, or most of them, in the Ultra Attacking Weekly Special. The special weekly that Sorare put on was no defenders. You needed to use 3 forwards, 1 goalie, 1 midfielder. And this one I actually did use the right captain. I captained Paradella, who again had 100, so maxed out my points on him. Vissel Kobe, absolute demolition job in their Asian Champion Leagues match. Muto, Osaka, Ogihara, they all got on the end of a decisive. So I managed to get over 400 points with this lineup. But the real letdown was Yakamakis. He just absolutely stank. A couple big chances missed. One of the chances was literally like a point blank shot where he just stuck his foot wrong and the ball rolled over his foot instead of going in the net. Like, it was truly a horrendous miss. But also, he's just a big whiny baby. He's kind of like a diva. He complains. He falls to the ground a lot. And so this was actually kind of, for me, the last straw. I actually traded my Yakamakis. Let me show you what I did. I actually traded him to a bot for a couple players that I'm going to try to use in the new MLS division, the new MLS competition. I'll go over these guys in just a minute because I'm actually, again, expanding back in MLS. And so I'll go over my thoughts on the good and bad teams and the guys I'm going to try to take advantage of who I think are underrated. I'll go over those guys in just a minute regarding my MLS plans. But anyway, this lineup would have finished really, really high if I had used, Shin Yamada from Kawasaki. Would have done, I would have, if I just put in almost any of my other starting forwards, I probably would have finished with a tier 2 card. But I ended up just getting a tier 4 instead. Right, this is only good enough for a tier 4. So, it is what it is. They had a really good matchup, I felt, in Pachuca. Pachuca's defense wasn't great. And as I said, he had some really good chances. One of them was like a point-blank shot that, instead of, just tapping in the net, it just rolled over his foot. So in reality, this lineup should have finished much higher. But, I can't play the game for them. They have to play the game. And so I just have to live with the consequences of his, horrendous miss. But, I traded him for some Chicago Fire cards, so I will never have to see his ugly face ever again. All right. Now, what I'm really excited about is what's coming up in the near future, which again is J League. J League is coming back. So I just want to kind of give you a look at what I'm kind of planning to do for the upcoming game week. The upcoming game week is honestly not the best for my J League cards. A lot of the early matchups are, they start off with away games, or they have some tough games. For example, my Sanfrecce guys, they play, Machida, who were honestly contending for first place in the league last season, which was kind of a surprise to me. Might not have been surprised to, someone who's really, really knowledgeable in the league or an expert in the league. But for me, they were just promoted, and they had a really, really strong showing after the promotion. But probably going to run out for the most part. My Kashima Antlers defense and offense, again, Shannon Belmar is not very good. And then I will just have to hope that my Vissel Kobe guys are able to, smash it home again against Urawa, which is not great. Kind of bittersweet because I just built a Urawa stack. And the matchup against Vissel Kobe is so bad for them that I don't even think I'm going to run out my Urawa stack until probably the following game week. In one of my priority lineups, again, I'm just going to run the full Vissel Kobe stack with Muto, Osako, Tula, and Ogihara. I often have this debate in my head as to whether or not I should go with Yamakawa or Tuller. Tuller tends to win more like interceptions and tackles, so I tend to go with him. He's a little more boom or bust though, because he does play more of that aggressive role in the defense. Yamakawa is more reserved. He's kind of, I think, he sits back a little more, whereas Tuller's role is more to be more aggressive, to really go in hard. And so you're more likely to get a yellow card. You're more likely to get fouls committed by him, but his ceiling on average seems to be a fair bit higher. So he's usually my priority over Yamakawa. But I feel pretty good with this lineup. Again, I think Urawa, as I said in my previous video, look like they're going to be a much, much better team this year. That offense could be one of the better offenses in the league. I think they really could contend for an Asian Champions League spot once again. But in this first game, it's going to be really tough for Urawa to get, to hit the ground running. So I'm going to keep hoping that, Vissel Kobe, they just continue to smash. Like I said, I've got really, really high XP on all of these guys. I got a pretty good collection bonus. I've had these guys for a long time, so they're all almost, level, almost max level. And so if they do what I think they can do, this lineup I think will have a really good shot at contending for, a tier 1 or a tier 2 card in this game week. In my other lineup that I'm going to be running for the start of J League, I've actually got a pretty solid lineup. I'm actually pretty happy with this one too. Nagoya Grampus, who are going to be playing at Kawasaki, so Frontale have a home game. Nagoya lost their starting goalie already to a knee injury. Daniel Schmidt transferred from the Belgian league to Nagoya to be their number 1 goalie. He already has suffered what appears to be a long-term injury. Don't quote me on that, but it seems like, based on what I saw on social media, Daniel Schmidt should be out for some time. Now, they do have a really, really good backup goalie in Takeda, but I'm going to go ahead and hope that Frontale kind of return to form and they smash Nagoya at home. They just played their Asian Champion Leagues match against Pohang Steelers. They crushed them. I think Wakizaka scored. Shinyamada had, 2 decisives, like a goal and an assist. Marcinho had, 15, he had like over 20 AA. So they just balled out against one of the better teams in K-League in their opening ACL match. And so I hope that they'll just roll that momentum into their first J-League, domestic league game of the season at home. Yogi Park, again, he is the new starting goalie for Yokohama. They have a fairly good match against Albirex at home. Yokohama have, not a great defense, but Yogi Park didn't have a good defense either when he was at Sagan Tosu. He really knows how to rack up AA, so I really doubt they'll get a clean sheet, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets, a fair share of saves to boost his score up to, like the 50s at least. I'm really hoping for that. I don't think it's going to be a clean sheet, but if he can get up in the 50s, then I think that'll be good enough to let the rest of this team do some work and get me into a spot to win a card. And then, of course, I've talked about these guys again and again, so I won't go on about them, but Quarta will make up that last spot in my lineup. They're home against Lanús. Not a great matchup, but as I said, River have had the best defense by far in the league. I think they've only let in one goal. And so, I got to keep running with these guys because they seem like they're just going to be the most dominant defense in Argentina this season. So that's what I have going on. I'm really looking forward to the start of this J League season. Again, I've got so much XP on these guys that I used a lot last season. So I think in Classic, these collections really have the potential to smash because, again, I'm going to have 9, 10, 11 plus XP on almost all of these guys, if not, already having that much XP. Like in my Vissel Kobe guys, they are already there. So really, really high chance of smashing, especially at home in week 1. I also told you guys that I was going to expand into MLS. I actually started out as a guy just playing MLS cards in Champion America back when Champion America was a thing, where it was its own competition. But then I started to lose kind of faith or fun in playing MLS cards when they turned it over to Challenger. I didn't like having to go up against guys, teams like Galatasaray and PSV and Feyenoord and Benfica. Kind of felt like, it was a losing battle. So I went basically all in on Contender. Well, now that MLS has its own competition, I am actually getting back into MLS. I'm building fairly slowly. I'm not the kind of guy who goes in on a ton of impulse purchases and just buys everything and hopes for the best. I'm pretty methodical. I like to use my money wisely, kind of really think out a plan before I just go buy stuff. And so what I've done is I really looked at what teams do I think will be most improved this season. The team that I personally feel like will be the most improved is Nashville. Last year, Nashville were absolutely atrocious. Their midfield was probably one of the worst midfields in the league. They could not win the ball. They could not hold possession. And as a result of a horrendous midfield, that meant Hani Mukhtar, instead of playing forward, instead of doing what he does in the final third, he had to come back, he had to play deep. They basically just didn't really get a lot of good opportunities on offense. Well, they have fixed, in my opinion, they have completely fixed their midfield problem. They got Edvard Tagseth from Scandinavia. I can't remember exactly where he comes from. I think he's from the Norwegian League. They traded, they got Brugman from LA Galaxy. Brugman, in my opinion, is one of the best kind of defensive-minded central midfielders in MLS. So they picked him up this offseason. And so I think with that revamped midfield, with Brugman kind of controlling the ball in midfield, dictating the tempo, with Tagseth giving more width, more offensive firepower to this lineup, I think a lot of the pressure will be taken off of Hani. I think he'll be able to do what he's done best in the center of the field, playing in that shadow striker role or that attacking midfielder role, whatever BJ Callahan decides to do with him. So I think this offense is going to be night and day compared to what they were last year. I really, really do believe it. Defense, because that midfield should be a lot better, because they'll have better control of the ball, because they'll be able to retain more possession. I actually think the defense will be improved as well. They've had a long history of being a really defensively solid team. They kind of fell off the wagon last year a bit in that sense, but again, because of fixing that big midfield problem, the big possession problem, I think their defense will also be a lot better. And so as a result, I think my lineup of Willis in goal, Surge in my forward slot, Mukhtar in my midfield slot, Zimmerman in my defender slot, and then Brugman in my extra slot. I think that 5-man stack could be really, really good in MLS comp this year. And like I said, they're only competing against MLS players now. They're not competing against the Eredivisie. They're not playing against Ajax or PSV. They're not competing against Benfica or Sporting. You're only competing against other MLS lineups. So as far as MLS goes, I think this is going to be one of the better lineups this year. I think there's a lot of parity in MLS. MLS is one of those, it has more parity than almost any other league that I know of on the planet. And so teams that are bad one year tend to have a strong bounce back the following year. And teams that are really, really good one year tend more often than not to regress at least a little bit the following year due to that parity or due to the salary cap, due to players transferring, due to the MLS draft, or the MLS draft isn't that important. So I'm looking at Nashville making the playoffs again. I'm actually thinking they might even finish top 6 in the conference. I mean, they didn't make the playoffs at all last year. So jump from no playoffs to top 6 will be pretty solid. And I really feel like Surridge has what it takes to push for maybe a golden boot if Hani can actually, have a lot of open space this time, find openings for Surridge, or create chances for Surridge. So I'm really, really high on Nashville this year. The other team that I'm going to start building out before the season begins, and I think we've still got about 10 days before the start of the season. I think the season starts in almost exactly 10 days. Is I'm going to build out a Chicago Fire offense. I think Chicago Fire have had one of the best off seasons of any team in the league. They kind of got rid of a lot of dead weight. They got rid of Shaqiri, who, I mean, Shaqiri's really, really talented, but it just didn't seem like he cared that much. He didn't seem like he tried that hard, and so a lot of the weight, a lot of the load was put on the players around him, just not the way it's supposed to work when Shaqiri was your 10. I also think that Bamba and Zinkernagel, they both might be a little too good for the league. I mean, Zinkernagel was quite good with Copenhagen and with, I think it was with Club Bruges in Belgium. Bamba, I mean, he was playing in the top leagues in the world. He's playing for Celta Vigo and La Liga. He was a starter at Lille for a while in France. So he's going to be on the wing as well. And I think with Zinkernagel and Bamba kind of flanking Kuipers, Kuipers is going to get so many chances. He's going to get so much more space than he used to, that Kuipers could really go off the season and have an amazing sophomore year in the MLS. And same reason why I think Gutierrez is going to be great. He'll have more space. He's going to have a heck of a lot more talent around him. And I think with that offensive trident of Bamba, Zinkernagel, and Kuipers, Gutierrez is going to have a field day in terms of laying off passes, creating big chances, getting assists, or even getting on the end of some goals himself. So again, I'm not done building out my Chicago stack yet. I've only got the 2 of the pieces so far. I'm probably going to pick up Bamba, the forward card, and Zinkernagel, maybe the midfield card, because I already have 2 forwards. I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm going to pick those guys up in just a little bit. And then that way my offensive stack, my second offensive stack next to Nashville, will be set. And like I said, these guys were not great last year. Chicago has been kind of in the mud for a couple seasons now, but I think they have spent their money really, really well. They have signed players in the offseason really, really wisely from Europe. And so they are on my list of teams that I think could have a really, really big bounce back this year, really overperform even, and find their way into the MLS playoffs once again. I will give more of an update on my MLS cards next video I make, and we will see how my J-League initial lineups go, and we'll see how the rest of my MLS gallery build goes for the start of the 2025 season. All right, see you then, guys.